I was 17 when my family moved into the house on Waverly Drive. It was the middle of my junior year, and I remember being furious about it. My dad had just gotten promoted, and the new job came with a big relocation package. My mom called it a fresh start, but to me, it felt more like exile. New town, new school, new everything. The only upside was the house itself. 2 stories, big backyard, wraparound porch, and dirt cheap compared to what we were used to. But I always felt like something was off about it. Even on the first day when we pulled up the moving truck, I remember noticing that none of the other neighbors came out to greet us. The house to the left had a swing set, but I never saw kids on it. The house to the right looked totally empty, with old blinds hanging crooked in the windows. My mom said it was just a quiet neighborhood, but the silence felt heavy. I don't even know how to describe it. The air just felt still. At first, things were normal. We unpacked, decorated, got used to the new layout. I took the upstairs bedroom facing the backyard. It was the only room with a little balcony, and my dad joked that it was the princess room, which made me hate it even more. But whatever. I set up my posters, plugged in my fairy lights, and tried to adjust. The first weird thing happened maybe 2 weeks in. It was around 3 a.m. I remember because I checked my phone, I woke up suddenly, like something had jolted me out of a dream. The whole room was quiet, but I had this overwhelming feeling that something was wrong. I got out of bed and went to the window. And there was a light on in the house next door, not a porch light, but one of the upstairs bedrooms, the one that faced mine. I stood there staring for a good minute, watching. The light didn't flicker. No one walked past the window. It was just on. I thought maybe someone had finally moved in, but I hadn't seen a moving truck or any cars parked there. Still, I went back to bed. The next morning, the light was off. I asked my mom if she'd seen anyone move in next door. She shook her head. No, that house has been empty for years. Some kind of dispute with the bank, I think. I tried to let it go, but the next few nights, it kept happening. Not every night, but often enough that I started keeping track. The light would come on in that upstairs window sometime after midnight. Stay on for a while. Then go off again. Always the same room. Always when everything else in the house was dark. Eventually, I told my older brother Jason about it. He was 19 and thought I was just being dramatic, but one night I dragged him to my room at 2 a.m., and sure enough, the light was on across the way. Maybe it's a timer or something, he said, but even he looked unsettled. Still creepy, though. We didn't say anything to our parents. My dad was already on edge from the stress of the new job, and my mom had this positive vibes only rule that made talking about anything uncomfortable practically illegal, so we kept it to ourselves. Then came the tapping. It started subtle, little clicking sounds on my balcony window. The first time I heard it, I thought it was just wind or maybe branches. But then it happened again, louder, rhythmic, like someone lightly tapping their nail against the glass. Tap, tap, pause, tap. The second time it happened, I ran to the window and yanked open the curtain. Nothing, just my dark backyard and the shadows of the trees. But the light in the neighbor's house was on. At this point, I was scared enough to sleep with my lamp on. I even blocked the balcony door with a chair. Not that it would have done much. Jason offered to switch rooms for a while, but I didn't want to seem like a baby. I told him I was fine. Then something happened that I can't explain. It was a Friday night. My parents were out at some dinner party, and Jason was at a friend's house. I was home alone, binging Netflix and half dozing off on the couch. Around midnight, I heard a knock at the front door. Not the bell, a knock. Soft at first, then again, louder. I muted the TV and just listened. The knocking didn't stop. It was slow, deliberate, like whoever was out there wasn't in a hurry. I crept to the peephole and looked out. No one was there. I checked the window, still no one. I stood there for a long time, my heart pounding. Finally, I opened the door, just a crack, nothing but empty street. I figured it was some kid playing a prank. I locked the door, double-checked the back door, then went upstairs. And that's when I saw it. On my bed, perfectly folded, was a white sheet. It wasn't mine. We didn't even own plain white sheets. But it was there, freshly folded, like it had come from a hotel. I stared at it for probably a full minute, not moving. Then I picked it up. It smelled like mothballs, old linen. It sent a chill straight through me. I ran to Jason's room and locked the door behind me, slept with a baseball bat next to the bed. We called the cops the next morning. They checked the house, didn't find anything. No signs of forced entry, no fingerprints. They said maybe I'd forgotten bringing the sheet upstairs, or maybe one of my parents did it. I knew they didn't. After that, it got worse. Things started moving in my room. Small stuff at first, my charger, earrings, a shirt I'd left on the chair. Sometimes things would be missing entirely and show up a few days later somewhere I never would have put them. Once I found my hairbrush in the freezer. Then the dreams started. I'd wake up drenched in sweat, heart racing, remembering pieces. A man standing at the foot of my bed, whispers outside the window. Sometimes the dreams were so vivid I couldn't tell if I was still asleep or not. Once I woke up and my balcony door was wide open. The chair I'd used to block it tipped over. Jason finally convinced our parents to install a security camera facing the backyard. It helped me sleep for maybe a week. Then one night, the camera was unplugged, literally yanked from the outlet. There was no footage of who did it. That was the breaking point for my mom. She insisted it was electrical interference and wanted us all to stop talking about it, but she started leaving hallway lights on at night. Started double-checking the locks, started sleeping with her phone under her pillow. About a month after we moved in, we found something buried in the backyard. It was Jason, actually. He was helping my dad dig out space for a new garden when his shovel hit something hard. They unearthed a small wooden box. Inside were a few faded Polaroids, kids, maybe 10 or 11, standing in what looked like our backyard. One of them looked almost exactly like Jason. There was no name, no date, just the photos. After that, my dad reached out to the previous owners. Turns out the house had been empty for 5 years. The family who lived there before had a teenage daughter who ran away. No one knew what happened to her. They moved out 6 months later. That was the final straw. We moved out before the end of the semester. My dad took a huge loss selling the house, but we didn't care. We just wanted out. Sometimes I still dream about that house. In the dreams, I'm standing in my old bedroom, staring across the backyard. The window in the house next door is lit, and there's someone standing there, watching. Only this time I think I recognize the face, and sometimes I swear I still hear the tapping. I never used to believe in ghosts, like, at all. I was always the one rolling my eyes at those stories about haunted houses and possessions or whatever. I figured if weird stuff happened in a house, there was probably a rational explanation for it. Bad wiring, creaky floors, mold making people hallucinate. But after what happened last year, I'm done pretending I know everything, because something real happened in that house. And I still don't fully understand it. This was right after my boyfriend Mike and I moved in together. It was our first place, just a small rental house outside of Pittsburgh. Kinda old, with some charm to it. 2 bedrooms, creaky porch, hardwood floors that never stopped groaning under your feet. But it was in a quiet neighborhood, and the rent was way below market, so we jumped on it. I remember the first time we pulled up, I noticed the front door was painted this really loud burnt orange color, like traffic cone orange. It looked totally out of place, but I weirdly liked it. Made the place feel quirky, if only I knew. We moved in on a Sunday. The landlord, an older woman named Cheryl, gave us the keys and warned us the place had some personality. I thought she was just talking about the old plumbing or drafty windows. Looking back, I don't think she was. For the first week or two, everything was fine. We unpacked, got into a routine. Mike worked evenings at a restaurant downtown, so I was usually home alone until 11 or midnight. I didn't mind. I'd just throw on some music, cook dinner, and wind down with whatever trash reality show I was hooked on that week. It was peaceful until stuff started moving. At first, I thought it was just me being scatterbrained. I'd find the remote across the room even though I swore I left it on the couch, or I'd go to grab my water bottle from the counter and it'd be gone. Later, I'd find it on the coffee table or in the bathroom. Stuff like that, annoying but not scary. I figured I was just distracted, but then the noises started, little bumps and thuds. At first they were easy to dismiss, just old house sounds, right? But they started getting louder, more deliberate, like someone was knocking something over in the other room. I'd go check, and nothing would be out of place. One night, Mike and I were sitting on the couch watching TV when we both heard a loud thump from the spare bedroom. It sounded like a chair tipping over. We both jumped and looked at each other. "Did you hear that?" he asked. "Yeah." We walked into the spare room expecting to see something knocked over, but the chair was upright. Everything looked untouched. I started getting this weird feeling in my chest, like static. Hard to explain. Mike just laughed it off. "These floors are ancient. It's probably just settling." I wanted to believe that, but things didn't stop there. It escalated. One night, around 10:30, I was folding laundry in the bedroom when I heard the kitchen cabinet doors slam shut, like all of them. Just bam, bam, bam. I ran down the hallway, heart in my throat, thinking maybe Mike had come home early. The kitchen was empty, but every cabinet door was wide open. Every single one. I stood there frozen, holding a pair of socks, trying to make sense of it. I remember whispering, "What the hell?" and backing out of the room like it might attack me. When Mike got home later, I told him. He just gave me this look like I was being dramatic. "You sure you didn't leave them open?" he said. I didn't even respond. After that, stuff started flying. I'm not joking. I'd be walking through the house and hear something crash behind me. One time, it was a coffee mug that flew off the drying rack and shattered on the floor. I wasn't even near it. Another time, I was in the shower, and I heard a loud bang, like a door slamming. I wrapped a towel around myself and walked into the hall. The bathroom door had slammed shut behind me, hard. I opened it slowly and saw the mirror in the hallway had fallen off the wall. Just dropped. Mike still didn't believe me, but that changed when it came for him. He was in the kitchen one night making eggs when the salt shaker on the counter just slid off and hit the wall. He looked up at me like, "Did you see that?" I nodded slowly. "Okay," he said. That was weird. After that, he started noticing things too. Lights flickering, objects moved, doors slamming. But the worst was the noise. It wasn't just bumps anymore. It was loud, deliberate. One night we were watching a movie when we heard something like a chair scraping across the floor upstairs. We didn't even have anything heavy upstairs. It was basically empty. We just looked at each other and he paused the movie. "Don't say anything," he whispered. We sat in silence, listening. It sounded like footsteps, heavy ones, crossing from one side of the ceiling to the other, and then something fell, loud enough that we both jumped. Mike grabbed the bat from the front closet and went up. I stayed by the stairs, holding my phone. He didn't find anything, but the attic hatch was open. Neither of us had touched it since moving in. We didn't even have a ladder for it, and somehow it was hanging open, like someone had climbed down and forgot to close it. We didn't sleep much that night. Eventually, we called Cheryl, the landlord. I expected her to say we were crazy, but when Mike told her about the noises and the cabinets in the attic, she just went quiet. Then she said, "I should have mentioned. The last tenants didn't stay long either." I felt my stomach drop. She said she didn't know much, just that the house had a little energy. That was the word she used. Energy, not helpful. By this point, we were terrified to be alone in the house. We'd leave the lights on at night, sleep with the door shut. Mike even started playing music to keep the mood light, but even that didn't help. The house felt wrong. It was like walking into a room where someone had just been fighting, that kind of tension. Then came the last night. It started with a crash in the middle of the night. We both sat up in bed, wide awake. It was coming from downstairs, glass shattering, wood splintering. We jumped up and ran to the stairs. It looked like the living room had exploded. The coffee table was flipped over. One of the lamps was smashed. Books were scattered everywhere like someone had thrown them. And the air felt electric, like a thunderstorm was about to hit. We didn't speak. We just packed our stuff that night and left. Didn't even wait for morning. We stayed with Mike's sister for a week and then broke the lease. Cheryl didn't even argue. She just sighed and said, "I understand." We never got answers, never found out if someone died there. We tried to look up the address, but there was barely anything online. Just some weird permit issues years back, and a couple of complaints about noise. To this day, I still can't explain it, but I know what we experienced. It wasn't bad wiring or the house settling. Something was in that house, and it didn't want us there. I bought the laundromat 2 years ago. It wasn't something I ever planned for. I was 31, recently divorced, and needed a fresh start. I found this listing online for a rundown coin laundry about 30 minutes outside Asheville, North Carolina. The price was almost suspiciously low, but the location was decent, just off a sleepy road near a gas station and a strip of abandoned storefronts. Honestly, it felt like something I could fix up and call mine. I figured, hey, people always need clean clothes, right? It wasn't anything glamorous, just rows of old Speed Queen machines, a rusted coin changer, and a busted vending machine. I repainted the walls, replaced some tiles, and got a few of the washers working again. The locals were nice, a mix of quiet families and older folks who had been using the place for years. But the weirdness started almost right away. The first thing I noticed was the smell. It wasn't the usual detergent or mildew smell either. It was metallic, sharp, and faintly sweet, like blood soaked in iron. I assumed it was something rotting in the plumbing. I paid a guy to snake the pipes. He found nothing. That smell would come and go at random. Sometimes it'd hit me the second I walked in. Sometimes it would linger under the dryers like a thing hiding in the walls. But I kept pushing forward. Most days were boring. Just me cleaning lint traps and refilling soap. I'd stay late doing repairs, keeping an eye on the place. There's no staff. It's just me. No cameras either. I always meant to install them, but something always distracted me. One night, maybe a month in, I was locking up when I noticed a puddle forming beneath the third dryer. The floor was dry when I walked in that morning, and there hadn't been any leaks all day. The water was thick, almost reddish, and it seemed to bubble slightly, like it was warm. I got down on one knee and touched it. Sticky. It smelled like that same sharp metallic scent. I wiped it up with paper towels, tossed them in the trash, and chalked it up to a busted water line mixing with rust. I went home, showered, tried not to think about it. But it kept happening. Always the same dryer. Always that same warm, sticky puddle beneath it. I eventually had a plumber open the wall behind the machine. He found some old rotted pipes, but nothing out of the ordinary. He looked confused when I asked if it could be animal remains. He laughed it off and told me to stop watching crime shows. The real turning point happened the night I stayed past midnight. I was replacing some cracked tiles near the dryers. Around 11:45, the power flickered, just for a second. Lights dimmed, then came back, but when they did, I heard it. A dripping sound, like water hitting concrete. Not the usual soft patter, this was rhythmic, deliberate. It was coming from the floor drain at the back of the laundromat. Now let me explain something. That drain has never worked right. It's always had this awful gurgling noise when it rains, like something deep inside it is trying to breathe. I walked toward it, slow. The air near the drain felt colder. The overhead light above it was flickering, stuttering like a dying bulb even though I had replaced it last week. When I stood over the drain, I realized something. The dripping had stopped. Dead silent now. That's when I heard the voice. A whisper. Not from the walls or outside, but from the drain itself. It was low, breathy, and wet. I couldn't understand what it said exactly. Just the rhythm of it. A pulsing hiss, almost like a chant or someone choking on words. I froze. Then I saw it. Something moved just beneath the grate. A pale shape, round, maybe the size of a fist. I thought it was a rat at first, until it blinked. A single, watery eye. Looking straight up at me, I backed away so fast I knocked over a mop bucket. Water splashed everywhere, but I didn't care. I ran, locked the front door behind me, and didn't go back for 2 days. When I did return, the grate was dry. Normal, no puddle, no eye, no smell. I tried to tell myself I'd imagined it. Maybe I was exhausted. Maybe I needed a break, but then the dryer started running on its own. Dryer number 3. The same one that always leaked. I came in one morning and found it spinning. No coins in the slot, no clothes inside, just spinning. I unplugged the whole row, but the next morning it was spinning again. Still empty, still dry, just turning like it was waiting. I replaced the fuse box, changed out the power strip, even rewired the damn thing. Still did it. Always around 3 a.m., according to the new plug timer I installed. I started leaving the place exactly at 10 p.m. every night. No matter what. I told myself it was just faulty wiring. Then a customer went missing. It was a woman in her 60s, Mrs. DeWitt. She'd come in every Tuesday night. Quiet lady, always folded her clothes neatly, never spoke much. One morning I showed up and found her laundry still sitting in the machine, soaked. The washer door was cracked open. Her keys were on the folding table. Her phone was inside the dryer, still powered on, but the screen had water damage. I called the police. They searched the area, pulled security footage from the gas station next door, but there was nothing, not a single frame of her leaving. They asked about cameras in my place. I lied and said they were under repair. The cops chalked it up to a missing person case, but I knew she was in the laundromat, and now she's not. I don't stay late anymore. I don't even go in alone anymore. But last week, something changed. I went to open up at 8 a.m. and found the door already unlocked. Inside, all of the dryers were running. All of them, all empty, all spinning, in sync. The noise was unbearable. A deep, whirring hum that sounded almost intentional, like it had rhythm. In the middle of the floor, there was a pile of coins, all quarters, stacked neatly in a spiral. At the center of the spiral was a human tooth. I didn't touch it. I swept everything into a trash bag and dumped it in the back alley. That night, my phone buzzed around 2:30 a.m. A notification from the new camera I finally installed. It showed a figure walking through the laundromat. Tall, wet, its arms were too long. It was crawling, not walking, pulling itself forward with soaking limbs, leaving a trail from the drain. It stopped at dryer number 3, stared directly into the lens, then the feed went black. I haven't been back. I paid a local kid to keep the place unlocked so people can use it, but I refuse to go inside now, and this morning I got a voicemail. It was static at first, then a voice. It sounded like Mrs. DeWitt. She whispered, "Come clean," and then dripping. Just that steady, slow, rhythmic dripping. To this day, no one's seen what's in that drain, but I know it sees us. Every night.